Hi, welcome to GTS Distributions Come and Play Day here in Seattle. My name is Rodney Smith from Watch It Played, and I'd like to invite you to join me as we take a look at one of the many games being featured here at this event. So let's go into the Watch It Played room and see what's on the table next. All right, everyone, welcome back again, and I've been joined by William Schoonover from Privateer Press Games, and you've brought something with you.
I have brought Level 7 Omega Protocol, the second game in the Level 7 brand.
That's right, because there was a Level 7 Escape. Was that was the first?
That was the first game we launched last year, yes.
Okay. And this is an extension of that, or how does
this is a brand extension.
Okay.
They share a story,
Yes.
but mechanically they're two completely separate games.
Okay, well, so tell me about that. How many people can play this game here?
Okay, so this is a 2 to 6 player game.
Yeah.
One player is always going to play the Overseer, the bad guy player, and then 1 to 5 players are going to play the Commandos, the good guys.
Okay, so how does that work then? Like, what are some of the mechanics of play here? What do people have to deal with?
Okay, so it's a tactical miniatures game. You've got guys you move around on a grid and you make attacks and you shoot targets and stuff.
Yes.
There's a lot of player choice in the setup and in the gameplay. Your character sheet for your commandos gives you some basic things, but then you have kit cards of their abilities and extra equipment and things you can take. You can never take all your kit cards, so you have to customize your character to do a certain thing.
So I can personalize this to how I want to play it.
You have 8 cards total, but you can only spend 6 points. So that might mean 5 cards. That might mean 2 cards.
Okay.
It just depends on their points values. Your commando also has 3 stances he can go into, which you always have access to. They're basically moving slow, moving fast, and moving somewhere in the middle. So the heavyweight support guy right here, he can go into a brace stance, which means he doesn't move very fast, but he shoots a lot. Or he can go into his hustle stance, which means he can bull right through other miniatures on the table.
Okay.
So he has options for what he wants to do, but he has to stick with that option for the entire round. And those stances choose his defense stats too. So you have a melee defense and a range defense.
Okay, so you pick this your stance,
Yeah.
and then you have to deal with that's my defensive position as well for this turn. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a planning phase for the commando players that happens at the beginning of the round where they have to formulate their plan and choose their initiative and decide what they're going to do. And then they take their actions, and then the Overseer takes his turn after them.
Okay.
So they have to hopefully make good decisions at the beginning of the round and survive all the way back around to the beginning again
Right.
before they get to change anything about their stats and stuff.
And so then the Overseer, they get to see the board state at that point in time, where all the people are, what their positions are, and then start making some decisions.
Yes.
So is there a certain resource or something that the Overseer gets to use to activate their actions? They have a certain number of actions they can perform. How does...
Well, there's a shared economy in the game.
Okay.
It's called the adrenaline tokens.
Okay.
When a commando does something, it has an adrenaline cost. So, for example, heavy support guy wants to move. He moves.
Yes.
He doesn't knock that door open.
Sure.
he gains 1 adrenaline for doing that.
Okay.
If he wants to shoot later in the turn, he gains 2 adrenaline for doing that. He has a max adrenaline stat that's how many tokens he can have on his sheet at one time.
Okay.
So he can do any number of actions up until he hits that maximum number of tokens.
Okay. All right.
So then during the commando planning phase at the beginning of the round, all the tokens the commandos have come over to the Overseer and go into his energy pool.
Oh, so now the Overseer can
So the
spend
actions,
these.
the actions they're doing are directly influencing the actions he can do.
Fueling.
Yes, because we built this so these guys could be really synergistic and very militaristic with their whole, like, you should do that, I should do this, I'm supporting you. Like, we want to make this as economically tight as possible.
Yes.
Because when you make a dice roll and it doesn't work, you just gave the
That
Overseer
adrenaline's still spent.
Yes, and
okay.
it didn't get you anything. So you want to try and be as tight as possible with your economy so that his economy is more limited.
Okay. Interesting. So, and what sort of options does the Overseer have? Now I got this nice collection
So
of...
the Overseer's got a dashboard in front of him, which
Okay.
has different abilities on it, which he spends adrenaline on. He also gets enemies that he can place on the map various ways.
Okay.
And so his adrenaline from his pool is either spent here on these abilities or spent to activate his enemies that can then move and attack and do whatever they're going to do. So the Overseer doesn't have a deck of cards he's trying to manage or anything like that. He has these dashboard tiles that are always open options.
These are always available?
Yes. So
Okay.
the mission guide says which ones you put on the table, and that's what you get for the mission.
Okay.
So where it comes into the choice aspect is all of these work a lot like video game powers, where
Right.
you activate them and then they have a refresh rate cooldown.
Right, okay.
So
sure.
I'm going to have to choose the exact right timing of when I want to do these things. So at the beginning of my turn, this little green number says I refresh 2 tokens out of this. I can't activate this again until that well is empty.
Okay, so each turn you're clearing a couple more out. Then when it's empty, then you're able to start use that again. Okay.
So if I want to spawn some clones with my Clone Flankers ability, I put 4 in because that's the cost. And then I put 2 clone miniatures on or adjacent to a vent because that's the rule for that spawn.
Yes.
But then the next round, it's only going to clear 2 of those. So if I got my timing wrong and these guys had already moved way beyond that,
right.
then or they're not going to get to that yet,
yes.
I'm going to have to spend extra resources to do other things to make that work. So especially for the big monsters and stuff, you want to drop them exactly at the right time, or you're going to be off by a turn either way.
Missing these
good or
opportunities.
bad and not have
right.
So it's about economically playing on both sides. Okay. The overseer doesn't want to squander his resources because he only gets a certain amount, and the commandos control that to a certain extent. And they want to play as tight as possible so they don't have to give him anything extra.
So is there a scenario that people are following they're playing?
There are 9 missions in the game.
Okay.
And the missions tell a story from these guys first busting into the base until the ultimate climax of that story.
Yeah, but that brings up something. I kind of glossed over the theme a little bit here. What is that? Like, it says
so
it's the level 7
the
universe,
level 7 brand is our survival horror setting with a basically modern world that UFO conspiracy is true. The government really has been working with UFOs.
I knew it.
And all that stuff. There's also some slightly higher tech, so it's a sci-fi setting, but it's not super deep, thousands of years in the future spaceship sci-fi.
Okay.
Because the government set up their conspiracy back in the 50s, and they've been going. But the events of Level 7 Escape are you as a test subject escaping from this place, and as you run out wrecking things, you change the relationship between the government and the aliens.
Okay.
They're called Gin.
Yes.
That's the name of the aliens. So by the end of Escape, there's open warfare in this base. So the Omega Protocol is the government's response that they've had ready for the eventuality of this happening.
Okay.
So you play in the second game the team that comes into that same base to clean up the problem.
Okay, so it really is picking up the story.
Yeah,
totally.
It's a direct story sequel, but mechanically it's a completely different game.
Okay, interesting. All right. So, well, yeah, you said there's like 9 different scenarios or so. What's the game length like? If people know what they're doing, if people know what they're playing.
If you've played and you know how to play the first scenario, which you can replay even though it's the simplest,
sure,
takes probably around an hour.
Okay.
The last scenario, the 9th one, can be fairly lengthy.
Yes.
And these style of dungeon crawl games, there's usually a lot of waffling and the players, like, you do that, no, you do that, no, you do that.
Yeah.
So those kind of things can always add time. So if you have a group of players that has trouble making decisions, it will go longer. But if you're playing fairly quickly and you know what you want to do and you have a good plan and you have a strong leader, because there is a mechanic kind of for a leader in the game.
Okay.
Then you can move through that first mission pretty quickly.
Okay. And now we've just laid out a bit of the game here, right? What other stuff comes? More tiles, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah, of course. There's a ton of tiles. There's 37 miniatures. There's card decks for various things, some of which are on the table and some of which are not.
Yeah.
There's our dice. There's tokens for a number of things, wounds, adrenaline. There's markers to mark details on the map, like that is a vent marker. Okay. So now clone aliens can come out of that vent. In addition to the regular tiles, there's these door tiles. So when you open a door in the game, it might have special rules.
Yes.
And another important part about the choices in play is the Overseer is building this map before the game starts based on some rules, but not really tight rules.
Okay.
So he doesn't have to put this door in this place every time.
Okay, so when you play the scenario again, I can customize some things so that the players don't, we've played this before, now I know exactly what I'm walking into.
Because nowhere in our mission guide does it say, don't read this book if you're going to be a commando.
Right.
Because I recognize that the first time you play it, it's all secret. The second time you play it, it's not.
Right.
So things like the doors being programmable to a certain extent and these room stacks being the actual details for the room, the first time he opens this door, this room might say there's a vent and some clones in there. Okay. The second time, it might have this guy standing here, ready to smash somebody.
Okay.
So you don't ever know exactly what's going to happen. You can play that first mission dozens of times because you can customize your kit cards and the Overseer can customize the map, and it might never play the exact same way.
I gotcha.
2 times in a row.
So this game hasn't released at this point,
right? It's coming out in September.
September 2013. And do you guys have plans for expansions beyond this, or is this a game within itself, or what's the idea there?
The base game is fairly extensive, and we're not ruling out expansions because we just released Lockdown, the Level 7 Escape expansion, in June, which puts 5 more missions in that game and a lot more danger and difficulty. So I've got some ideas for expansions.
Keeping
for
your options open.
But but we're gonna wait and see, and so we're not announcing anything.
Yes.
Anything firm yet.
Okay, so let's say someone wants to find out more about this. They're interested in what they see here. What's a good place for them to go?
So our website, privateerpress.com/level7, will give you all kinds of information about this. We have a sub forum that also people can discuss and ask questions about and talk about the games and things like that too.
Okay, well, and you've certainly given us a good overview, and I want to thank you, and I appreciate your time showing us that.
Thanks.
And thank you guys as well for watching. We'll see you soon.